it's Renee with Delaney Jane Cards, and I have a video for you today on the Clair Designs channel. Today I'm using a brand new digital set called A Prized Life. It has several images in it, and what I did is manipulated them in my free software and created 3 different cards for you today, all very quick. For the nest image, I actually cut off the branch and pieced it on there in different places. And once I had my designs, I also printed them on some tonic satin finished cardstock, and we are going to experiment today. I had picked up this opal foil, and I really wanted to see if it would be like white. I'm really looking for white foil, so this is not it, but it does do some cool things. So I'm using my removable Scotch tape to just kind of tape those down in the places that I want them, and I'm gonna do the same thing for the other 2 pieces, just tape down some foil where I want them. As far as manipulating the images, you can resize and spin around and create all sorts of very cool things with these images. You'll see that this leaf pattern that is in the set, I've used it multiple ways on the 2 smaller images, plus I made a background with it, and you'll get to see that in a little bit. I wanted to leave this part in. I only left it in for one. When I run things through my laminator, it's a cheap one, I use a piece of very heavyweight vellum as my carrier sheet, and then I run my piece through 3 times, usually face up, face down, face up. I just find I get a much better transfer when I do the 3 passes through my laminator. I also make sure that I let everything cool completely before I peel it off. And this was 100% an experiment. I did not know if you could foil on this cardstock. First of all, I didn't even know I could print on it. I had to kind of help it through my printer, but it did go through, and it turned out so pretty. I was so excited when this came out, and I had the 2 different foils on there. In the end, I don't even have this as one piece. I could have left them separately, but I didn't know what I was going to do yet. So here's that kind of like laurel leaf. I have 3 or 4 of them, and 5 of them, or however many, and I've kind of set them up in a circle, and then I have added the I moved beyond words in the inside. And then here is sharing in your sorrow with that bird's nest and the addition of the extra leaves. So for the first card, and these are going to be 3 very quick cards. You can see this isn't a very long video, and I'm going to make 3 cards. I ink blended here. First, I'm just slapping down color. This is Blueprint Sketch. The second color is Wilted Violet, and then Abandoned Coral is the third one. First thing is just getting the color down on the cardstock. I used Nina cardstock. I didn't pull out anything fancy. Just wanted to get the color on there. When you're doing something like this, these brushes might not be the best tool for the job. I didn't find them to be the best tool for the job. I just feel like I didn't pick up enough ink, and which is nice when you want a really very soft blend. But I went back to the little blending tools, and I was able to kind of saturate the paper much better and get more ink on the piece of cardstock. Now, it didn't matter if my ink blending was absolutely perfect, because you know what, it's a handmade card and it should never be perfect. And if it is, you have a machine manufacturing stuff. There's just no way to be perfect all the time. You're human. So don't worry if you have little mistakes. But as far as the ink blending, it didn't need to be perfect. I did try to blend it nicely because it is going to be a background, and I wanted to, have a nice looking background. So the thought behind this is I had gone to a scrapbook expo at one time and had searched out this particular cover plate that I'm going to be using. And in all honesty, I paid way too much for it, and I don't use it enough. So when I had created this circle with the sentiment in the inside, I thought it would be the perfect backdrop to have these silhouetted trees in the background. I just thought that it would be stunning. Now you can see here my ink blend is far from perfect, but once I put the trees on, it's not going to really matter all that much that the ink blend is not perfect. What's going to matter is that there's very wide bands of color in the background. So the trees will break that up, and then more so the sentiment will break it up on top of that. So don't ever worry that your ink blend isn't blended enough or perfect enough, because I'm telling you, when you look at this card, you're not picking apart my ink blend. So for this card, I used a Gina Marie Designs scalloped edge rectangle, and if that's available in the Joy Clair store, I will link that below too. But I just die cut this with that rectangle and then fitted this piece of satin cardstock inside, and that was the end of that card. It's beautiful. It didn't need anything else. For this one, now this is that same laurel leaf, and I had just manipulated it in my software to make it small and line them up, and then I took those lines of the manipulated leaves and I just stacked them on top of each other, and I created patterned paper. And I wanted to do something kind of different, so I decided on this Cracked Pistachio Distress ink. And at first I blended an entire rectangle because I wanted to make sure that I had ink on the whole thing. And then I'm going to blend in Blueprint Sketch from the bottom, and it's a super pretty blend. I don't think I've ever actually blended those two together, and I loved it. It was so pretty. And I could have just left the ink blending, but I decided that I wanted to do just a little bit more. Here I was checking to make sure that I had full A2 size piece, so I didn't have any white corners. And that's just a Pink and May die. It is, I think, basically A2 size. I just ran through my die cut machine. Once I was done, I used that same opal foil that I had used on the leaves that are by the sentiment there, and I ran that through my laminator 3 times. Again, of course, I don't believe I showed it all to you, but I did run it through 3 times, and it laid down the most perfect opal printed background ever. And it's kind of underneath that ink blending, or over top the ink blending, so it just becomes this really pretty. It's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. I was so happy. Now, as far as the sentiment goes, I wasn't really happy with it shaped like that, so I did trim everything out. I just fussy cut the sentiment and then fussy cut around each of those leaves. And like I said, those are the same exact foil that I used in the background, the Best Wishes. That is a golden foil, and I do like that it was different because it stood out just a little bit more. I added a little bit of foam tape to each of these pieces. This card is another super simple card as well. And this is the third one. I do add a little bit of embellishment to this one, but in all honesty, I believe 3 cards took me less than 20 minutes, and that included running it through my laminator and waiting for my laminator to heat up. Like, that's ridiculously short. If you need some quick cards, they don't always have to be heavy Copic coloring. They don't always have to have any kind of coloring. You see, there is absolutely no coloring in these cards. I just did a few simple backgrounds. The one I just layered up and made a beautiful sympathy card, just manipulated the image in my software just a little bit so that it was a much more full image with the leaves and the branches on that nest. And I just thought that it carried the card better when it had more. And that's another thing, you know, just like traditional stamps, you can alter digital stamps. I could cut these apart. I can make all sorts of things with my software using these beautiful images that were created. So I will have this stamp set linked below, and the Joy Clair Designs shop, as well as my personal channel where you can come on over and check out my personal videos. But these are the 3 cards that I have for you today. I did finish them up and put them all on card bases, and I cut my card bases the exact same way. It doesn't matter if my cards are top folding or side folding. I just like the way that the cardstock is cut. So when I have like the sympathy card that I made, the side, it's a side folding one, and it'll be like on the short side. And I find that that I like it better anyway. I just think that it stands nicer and looks nicer when you set it up. So these are my 3 cards. I hope you enjoyed them. I really hope you check out the new release from Joy Clair Designs. And there is a little bit of a hop going on today. I will have the next person linked below. You'll also find my blog post and all that other stuff. And let me know which card is your favorite down below. And as I always say, give cards generously. Bye.